Hey guys, Matt from Evolve Fitness here. I'm here on a weekend making videos for my members, and I just thought, within light of the way the world is right now with the coronavirus happening, this is some super important information I want to put up to everyone. Now, I'm not claiming to be a medical doctor. I have, however, had very close meetings with good people in the industry that have confirmed my thoughts on this, and also I've heard their thoughts from the other side, and I believe that we're asking ourselves the wrong question. Everyone right now is in panic, trying not to get this coronavirus, which is very rightfully so. If you're sick, you should definitely be isolating yourself, and we should be protecting the old and the people with pre-existing problems. But the real fear is coming from what happens if I get it. And that's a very, very good question to be asking, because as the way it's spreading, we don't know how things are going to turn. And most people's question on their mind is, how can I avoid getting it? I think the question we should really be asking ourselves one step beyond that is, how ready am I if I do? Now, if you don't know anything about viruses and bacteria are very different. Bacteria are alive, a virus is not. It's basically like a copying machine system that hijacks cells and makes lots of replica copies of itself. This causes a big problem because stuff such as antibiotics don't work in it because it's not alive. And the only thing that can actually defeat this is your own immune system. So when people are more or less likely to be affected by this virus, it's usually the elderly or people with already pre-existing problems. Why is that? Because their immune systems are low. So the real question we should be asking ourselves is, how can we make ourselves as fit and healthy with the strongest immune system as we possibly can in case we do contract it, or we become one of those minor cases that basically get the sniffles and get over it. Because that's what's happening to 98% of people, is they are contracting it, having a reaction, then getting over it. There's a very small percent that are having a bad reaction and a tiny percent that are dying.
Do you worry about your wife and kids getting it?
Well, one of the things that the medical officer said, Carl, is that for the vast majority of Australians who would contract this virus, it'll be a mild illness, as Dr. Murphy has said. And so whether I were to contract it or you were to contract it, the other thing is it's shown no severity, particularly towards younger people and especially children. The more at-risk populations are the older population. That's what we've seen.
So how can we prepare our body? Now, I'm actually going to make quite a few videos on this, because otherwise this video is going to be way too long and people just basically aren't going to watch it. But the first thing I want to start this off with is something that is relatively easy, and that is vitamin D. Now, vitamin D has a massive role in your immune system. It's basically like the regulator of your immune system. And many meta-analyses on many different studies have come to the conclusion over time that vitamin D is very, very important for overall immunity. It boosts antimicrobial peptides, macrophages, monocytes, and pathogens. And it's also incredible for people that have autoimmune conditions. Now, that's a whole load of jargon. What actually is this? I'll break it down, what it actually does for your body first. So studies have shown that if you have adequate amounts of vitamin D, then by supplementing vitamin D, and I'll break down that word in a minute, you can get 20% of a resistance to any kind of respiratory infection. 20% just by having supplementation. I don't mean that just by buying supplementation, I'll go into it, but 20% increase is important to know. If you are deficient in vitamin D, which the majority of the population are, it's 70%, 70. Now, this is well-documented material, and so that's why I think this needs to be pushed out, because it's well known. I've known about vitamin D for so many years now, because at first I found out about it because I couldn't tan. I wanted to find out how to tan. Then I went into vitamin D, and it went on from there. So it's something that I do myself. But I find out many people don't know the importance of having vitamin D. So vitamin D has many roles in your immune system and can really help to regulate a healthy, strong immune system. In fact, it's like the overseer of it. And it's vitamin D is very good for autoimmune conditions. So if you are someone with an autoimmune condition, it's very good for bringing back those symptoms and dampening it down, which in a way frees up your immune system to actually look after other things. Right, first of all, I'm going to go on with an absolutely free way of getting vitamin D, but I want people to understand how vitamin D with your skin works, because the free way and the best way to get it is the sun. Now, this in itself is really, really interesting. So vitamin D is created by UVB sunlight reacting with the oils in your skin, then being created into vitamin D. Okay, so vitamin D is actually created by the oils in your skin as a reaction to light. So if we don't have enough of this, our body will adapt by lightening up the pigment in the skin so that we can absorb more of this light so we can convert it via receptor sites. The great thing about getting it via the sun is that you can never overdo it, because too much vitamin D is a bad thing. They found out via supplementation, but you cannot get too much via the sun, because what happens, the pigment in your skin becomes darker to less of an absorption of that sunlight reacting with your skin, hence a tan. So if you're someone who is from a bloodline of people who are in a lot less sunlight, you'll be a lot lighter in skin because your body needs more vitamin D, so it's open for more absorption. The good thing about this is you can absorb more vitamin D faster, but then you create that tan. The bad thing about it is you can't just jump out the sun because you'll burn, because of aviation, we've dropped each other at different points of the earth. We shouldn't actually be where we are. So it's important never to burn, and I will explain how to get it via the skin. But it also, if you're a very darker skin tone, that means that you are from a descendant of family that were in a lot more sunlight throughout time, and if you're very dark in skin, then you've had a lot of sunlight on you. But the thing with that is then the pigment has changed the darken to block a lot of that out so that you don't get too much. The problem with people with darker skin types is now, once again, because of aviation, we've been dropped somewhere else in the world, we now live indoors a lot. A lot of people with darker skin types are very, very vitamin D deficient. And for those people, it's a lot less obvious, because when a person with lighter skin is very vitamin D deficient, they can look quite ill and very, very pale. In darker skin, it's quite hard to actually see that. So, how do you do it? First of all, you cannot put any kind of cream on top of it. I'm not going to go into this, and I don't want everyone to go crazy about this, because A, we're only going out for short amount of times, but also I want you to look into oxybenzene, which is something they put in a lot of sun creams. Now, we banned in Hawaii because it becomes carcinogenic when exposed to the sun, but I don't want to go into that kind of thing. This is biologically how we can convert it. So you have to have complete sun exposure. And so the more, basically like sunbathing, the more you have exposed, the better, because it's receptor sites in the skin that change the light from the oils, from the light into the oils, then it absorbs over time. So you now need to go into the sun and expose yourself to the sun between angles of 30 degrees of the earth the sun has to be. So it's basically between like 10 and 3, but it depends at different points of the earth, so daylight saving time. A good app to get, which for my gym members, if you're watching this, I will actually do a video teaching you how to do this, is D-Minder is a great app for that. So you have to make sure that you never burn, because you reject the top 3 layers of your skin, and then it's completely different. So get the sun exposure, never burn, and then you can get the front, you can get the back, then go in. Very important, do not shower. When you shower, you then wash those oils off, and what happens is it's made in the oils and it absorbs through the skin over time. An important thing to add with this is do not wear sunglasses when you're doing this, because when you wear sunnies, what happens is your eyes react to prisms of light, and it prepares your oils on your skin. So for example, if you saw a tiger, your eyes would biologically react, adrenaline to release that I don't want to get killed, and you have a biological response. If your eyes see the sun, you have another kind of reaction which releases oils on the skin. If you wear sunnies, you don't get that signal to the brain, you don't release the oils. Right, to prepare your skin for that, the receptor sites are omega-6. So it's good to have good omega-6s in your diet so you get adequate amount of receptor size. So if you find that you're following all of this and you still burn like crazy, or you can't go in for very much time at all, then you might be very low in omega-6. You get lots of that in like fatty fish, such as like salmon and sardines and so on. The only problem with that is with our waterways now, they're very full of heavy metals and plastics, so you kind of have to be careful with that. But you also get in types of nuts like flax seeds and sesame seeds and kind of nut oils like that. The good thing with food is as well, you can actually get vitamin D, very small amounts via these fatty fish, but you can also get them in mushrooms such as shiitakes, I always say that wrong, and also egg yolks have, I think, like 15 IUs per 1 or 2. It's not a lot, but it's still a form of vitamin D. And the last way that you can get it is by supplements. And obviously supplementation, you can take vitamin D. That's a great way of doing it. Be careful with that though, because we don't know what level of vitamin D you have now. And if you overdo it, you can actually have adverse effects. That's why it's really important to get it from the sun if you can. It's also shown that mega dosing does not work. It's slow and sustainable over time, which for me makes sense because we've adapted to the sun, which would have been slow and sustainable over time. So this is just one example of how you get vitamin D, which is an important part of regulating your immune system. There are many other ways that I'm going to release in small videos. And to my members, my gym members, for the next couple of months, I'm going to be hammering home health, not just fitness and weight loss and looking good. It's going to be all about health, and especially in this time, how to deal with this. So you'll be getting extra stuff if you haven't watched this. So I hope you take that on board, guys. Do your own research, look into this, and remember, in this time, it's important to do avoidance of getting this. But if you do contract it, we need to be ready. Take care.